Hello and welcome everybody to week 4 of the SPL. My name is LHS and I'm going to be your host for today. Joining me on the desk is Taco. How you doing, Taco?
Feeling pretty good and really excited for this weekend.
We have a lot of good games for you today, but before we get into SPL action, this weekend is Father's Day weekend, so we got an event for you. 50% off all Father's Day select skins.
And there's a lot of really interesting skins that we have for that. We've got the Daemi Odin, Dreadbeard Poseidon, Master Fu Guan Yu, just to put an idea into your guys' head for a lot of the cool skins that we have to offer during this weekend.
Definitely a lot of skins to get 50% off on, get that value. Put your best daddy on. Let's look at what everybody's playing for this week. The race is on. DreamHack Valencia, the LAN. We got 4 spots for EU, 3 for NA, and 1 for South America. Things are getting tight.
Oh, things have been tight, I think, especially in EU and NA. It's really hard to tell who's going to really just start breaking apart, other than, I would say, Dignitas and Obey shaping up to be near the top for EU. And then in NA, you've got about Luminosity and Monkey Madness, but not really too certain what happens after that.
Like we said, this is week 4 out of our 5-week split, so things are getting really close. Things are getting down to crunch time. Let's take a look at the standings, starting with EU. Like you said,
No problem at all. It's just the schedule for today. And, of course, we are going to have Obey Alliance facing off against Team Rival. As far as the standings and everything are concerned, it is EU, since we want to take a look at those matches, since we're going to be kicking off with Europe with Obey Alliance against Team Rival, like we said, and then finishing the day with Dignitas versus NRG. These are 2 very crucial EU matchups, just considering that both of these teams, I'd say, for Obey and Rival, pretty much all 4 of these EU teams are really needing to make an impact today. Rival more so than probably these other teams because they're not exactly top of the charts right now.
Like you said, Dignitas is sitting at the top. They've kind of got the lead across EU right now. I believe they only need a split at all this weekend to qualify for DreamHack. It'll be really interesting to see if they can find this win over NRG. I mean, NRG has been weak so far, but is that going to continue? Can they find the 2-0? And, you know, Obey Rival. Can Rival show up? I mean, we've had the Rival from last split who doesn't necessarily show up for every game. This will be their proving grounds.
I wouldn't necessarily call it as NRG being weak so much as it is just a little bit inconsistency. I think that it can be difficult for a team like NRG to kind of just have that initial strong standing point that they want from the get-go. They had a little bit of uneasiness when the meta first broke out. Now they've been trying to adjust things around, and it's been working. They've had very impactful matches, and I think that against Dignitas, they're going to still have their money cut out, their run cut out for them, because it's not going to be easy looking to take a split or even a set win off of NRG. I think a lot of people are really excited for this matchup, though. And I mean, NA certainly isn't anything to be counted out of, but there are the standings that we were just mentioning for EU, and you can see already Team Dignitas sitting pretty at 12 points. And
then you've got NRG, Obey, and Rival sitting at 8, and then Enix kind of fell off from the pack a little bit, sitting at 7, not looking as good as they were to start off the split.
Enix are one of those teams where they have an incredibly strong roster. I think a lot of people still hold this team in pretty high regards. The only difference is when you have a team that goes through a little bit of the switch-ups, bringing in Fails, bringing in Ducky, it's still an impact to the team synergy. And yes, these are all incredibly strong players, but it could take some time to develop that team chemistry like these other teams already have with Rival, Obey, NRG, Dignitas. Those are some very formidable teams to go against. So I can't really blame Enix for having the little bit of struggle that they have been.
All right, and then in A, we've got Luminosity and Monkey Madness tied for the top, and Allegiance still holding on to that 3rd place spot.
And, of course, you've got to keep in mind that Luminosity and Monkey Madness, it's really just a race right now to see who's going to be able to come in that 1st place position, because, I mean, seeding is always so important, especially heading into these big events. And I think that it's still not a guaranteed win right away. Like, Monkey Madness are not by any means already qualified for Valencia. There's still a couple of sets left, and with that in mind, all of these teams really need to make sure they're playing as clean as possible.
And you can't forget about the dark horse right now, Noble, just on fire these last couple weeks, getting 2-0s everywhere.
it just really seems like Noble finally hit their stride. I think that that's kind of just what people were waiting to see when you pick up a member such as EmilZy Stealth. And I think that all around, Noble have really been taking the necessary steps to kind of just upset these teams. I'm not sure if I can even really refer to it as an upset anymore. I think that Noble's always been a strong team. They just haven't necessarily performed that way.
They're taking those steps to transform from a good team with, you know, these crazy plays out of nowhere to being more consistent. And that's been the key for this entire season, has really just been players growing more and more consistent.
And I mean, consistency is key when it comes to trying to ensure that your team is going to be coming out at the top for these set points. And of course, these are really some of the more important matchups that we need to keep in mind for today. Like we said, it is going to be Obey Alliance facing off against Team Rival. And then I think we're going to be seeing a lot coming out of these NA teams in between. And of course, Dignitas vs NRG.
All right, we definitely got some great games for you today. We're going to start right away. We're going to go into Obey versus Rival. We're done here on the desk. Let's throw to our casters for game number 1.
After you started alongside me. Hey, there we go. You working yours?
Yeah, we're working.
Cool. So, me and Tom are bringing you set 1 today. Energy versus Rival. This is a good one, Tom, because Rival have been around the scene for a little while now, started to gather momentum, win a couple of lands, or at least have good experience at lands. Obey the same thing.
Right. It's funny. It's funny that that slip of the tongue. You actually called them Energy at first. Obey.
My bad. You're right.
No. The only reason I call you out is because there's so many parallels, not just between Obey, but also Rival. This is basically the Rival set. So we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes with that Rival set. Stay tuned for some more Smite.
Well, just keep an eye on this. We'll be back in a minute with more Smite. I said it again.
Yeah,
good times. Okay, never mind. We're not going off air. Apologies for that. We're going to go straight into hopefully picks and bans right about now. Bit of an awkward moment this morning. I do apologize for that for you guys at home. I always end up apologizing. You know, it's always on me.
It's too late.
It's whenever I'm on screen. I mean, I was like, oh.
Hey.
Did you really do that?
I did do that.
That's awkward.
See, here's the thing. Usually when Graham and I commentate together, the rarity that it is.
Very rare.
It's usually swapped. I'm usually chair 1, but the rule is anytime bad news comes through, it's his job.
Yep, so I have to take the chair 1 and deal with it and apologize to you guys at home. Picks and bans should be ready relatively soon, I believe, between Rival and Obey, not Energy, as I said earlier on. But Obey, their season so far has been pretty solid, even though they have dropped games already.
That's why I brought up, you know, your slip of the tongue, because Obey Alliance seemed to be how Energy were in the past. Energy right now have been sort of getting up to speed and trying to really be that dominant force that they once were, and that's Obey. Now listen, Energy used to drop a couple of games. That's what we're seeing at Obey. Consistent play, but every now and then they wind up with a big L, and it's just so reminiscent of the team that we saw a couple of years ago.
And the other opposition team today, Rival, obviously they've started to have good times of things as well. Have you seen Rival going through with how last year went for them? They kind of came on the scene, didn't do much, bottom 2s, bottom 3. Then they managed to get to the gauntlet, and things kind of started to change slowly from them from there.
Well, this is the team that I called Energy Junior. The fact that they didn't change their roster, even in the face of adversity, very important stuff, because they kind of had faith that the individual talent on that team would progress further.
Sure.
And that's exactly what they did, and now Team Rival are a contender.
Well, Ganesha banned out, Fafnir banned out, so support focus so far. Do we expect Bellona or Osiris here?
I would imagine so. Both Team Rival and Obey Alliance have really strong solo laners, so I think that's absolutely something that's going to have to be communicated. But Sun Wukong, a character that we've seen be picked up a little bit more often lately, he's going to take the ban instead.
Yeah, surprising to see that one so quickly, but I love the fact that Ganesh is starting to rise to that ban mentality now. It kind of was on the cusp for a little while of ban mentality, but it wasn't always the same, was it? It was sometimes like they would get banned, or he was left open and got picked 3rd, 4th, 5th even. Now it's a different story. It's back on the ban register again.
Obey Alliance banning out basically Kalas. They want to make sure that he can't be that aggressive Ares and Fafnir. Sun Wukong, this is actually something interesting. Now, Bellona, Osiris, still dominant forces in that short lane because of Death Toll, but recently it got a change. Cleave basic attacks don't go over the top when it comes to DT, so Sun Wukong and options that clear the wave easily are also very accessible. Osiris, still #1 guy, of course.
Surprised to see Osiris over Bellona when it's Deathwalker in the solo lane is what I'm looking at there.
Yes.
But Osiris is a very good lane bully.
Yeah, I mean, he can absolutely box you, just like the Bellona, so I'm kind of curious there. What the Osiris first pick tells me is that Rival are ready to fight into Bellona more so than they're ready to fight into Osiris, despite the fact that Deathwalker might be the poster boy for Bellona.
Well, Obey's having a nice, long, hard thought about what they could pick up for themselves next. A lot of the mid lane is still open, as you can see, but Bellona doesn't necessarily has to be picked there. You may be a little bit worried about jungle Bellona, jungle Osiris, potentially, I guess, and not giving both to rival.
Well, we saw that combination, not Bellona Osiris, but the Raven Osiris, showing that, and Raven's been very prevalent with or without Sunder, mostly with, and that's why putting the warrior in the jungle, we've seen that it works as well. But Obey Alliance, I love the Naja pick, sticking to their identity, something that I talk about all the time. CaptainTwig loves his character. Boom, there it is.
I mean, CaptainTwig was the one that brought it back into the focal point again and again and again. With the ring toss changes now, seems to be following suit. Sol picked up for Team Rival here. Not a real surprise to see Sol can flex to the mid lane all the Hunter rollers we've seen. Majority of the time, though, it's mid with that mage burst.
We say, yes, that I will agree with that. With Team Rival, different story, though. Vote has shown that he not only wants to play Sol, but he'll even play the Freya. So he's not afraid of those magical hunters. Sol here in the hands of Wlfy or Vote, equally scared. So I love the selection from Rival.
Hovering over Terra right now, our Obey Alliance. Not a real surprise to see EmilZy go to that. We've seen him on it many times before.
I mean, she's just a strong character. She has decent sustain, not number one, but absolutely still has to be talked about. And a lot of control, which is going to be able to set Naja up for those easier long-range ultimates when the player's rooted.
It's a very good point, because those walls just clapping down causes so many problems for the Sash to be able to follow it up, even Eagle's Rally. Or the other way around on landing after Naja does take someone up if required.
There's that Raven ban we were talking about, Hindu Man, showing that Osiris and the Raven, the two warriors, can really flex together. Very important stuff. And by taking him out of that field, Team Rival becomes a little more squishy, theoretically, even though they have the cap.
And the funny thing is, I think Rival might have liked that Raven in the jungle there, but because of the support ban focus from Obey, it forced him into drafting that Khepri a little bit earlier on than maybe they would have liked with Raven being available.
Exactly. Kalis is a strong support player, but he definitely has the characters that he performs better on. Ares, Fafnir, Khepri, those choices. It's funny watching Khepri because that's the flex character. He can be either defensive or aggressive.
Sure.
And we know Kalis, he's always going to look to be aggressive.
All too aggressive guys that PrettyPriMe play have been banned out. Nox and Vulcan. Surprised by that at all?
No.
Standard business, right?
Yes.
Same old, same old. So options available. Become a little bit more limited towards that mid laner, but he has played Kulkan in the past who started to creep back in. We saw last week Poseidon too, even though he's really fallen out of favor just lately.
Yeah, Poseidon and Kukulkan both bring a ton of burst damage, which allows you objective secure, objective denial, and a whole slew of bonuses because of those ultimates. And Kukulkan, it's interesting. He seems to be a little bit harder to play than Poseidon, so we see the really established mids play him, and Wlfy has been one of those guys.
Sure. And we'll see what it can do this time round for Rival anyway, because we've got the Soul so far. It could be Rama here, or it's going to be Cupid. Cupid's come back a lot as well just lately. Warchi, I think, led the charge. He was the first one to do it.
Well, the big deal about Cupid is the fact that his ultimate is very, very large, just like Ho Yi. Ho Yi drops the sun to deny Gold Furies, etc. Cupid's going to do the same thing. What I like about this selection, Graham, is that we still don't know who's going where. Wlfy has played both the Cupid and the Soul. Same thing with the long lane.
I can agree with that. A bit lacking wave clear in the mid lane, though, if you put that Cupid there, especially alongside a Nemesis. It's not the strongest wave clear in the world, so I'm a little bit concerned about that against a Naja. But we'll see what Obey go with their mid laner now. They may need a little bit more clear to go with the Naja, but Naja's pretty solid, and Thoth being hovered on.
Yeah, Thoth would be the go-to here for me if I'm looking for PrettyPriMe. Vulcan, Nox is kind of flavor picks, have been banned out, but there's no reason with going with the meta. PrettyPriMe can absolutely follow the leader, and that's what he's going to do here, if not be the leader in the game with big, powerful Thoth stuff. I
really like Obey's draft in this one, honestly. It looks very, very solid all the way around. Early into mid-transition, it seemed pretty solid. Rival a little bit more over the place with the, generally onto the Cupid, I feel. It just feels slightly out of place with the comp they're running.
A little bit, but here's the thing. When Wlfy drops the ultimate, Supernova is not... It's not like giant AoE, right? You can paint Supernova around a large area, but it's not the same as if you're dropping, I mean, the Kraken or a Zhang Kui ultimate, right? So Vote is kind of holding that spot of large AoE down.
Ring tossing mid lane onto Wolf, and he eats so much damage. 4-man rotation, and already a kill to Obey Alliance. Apologies for the top of the screen. Don't worry about that. We'll get that changed, but that was Obey in Europe getting first blood.
Now, one of the biggest deals about that play, sure, there's 4 people collapsing on him. It's not going to really be a positive environment ever, but the real key on that play was CaptainTwig with the body block against the wall. No way that Wlfy gets out of that situation. It's a very important play. Heads up decision from the jungler.
Well, Obey trying to actually invade onto the speed buff here. Still level 1 for CaptainTwig up against Deathwalker and iceicebaby, also level 1. Have to be very careful here, F-Dot, but it's getting low. Waiting for the ring toss and the burst damage to come in. It will go the way of Obey, and Deathwalker's going to pay with his life for his discretions in defending.
I don't know. I got a little nervous there watching them tick down to the last basic attack, and then you got to be aware of that ring toss. The ring toss and especially the sash, you're not getting away from Naja at level 1 or 2.
And not only that, now you can see right-hand side, Deathwalker has to teleport back into lane, but maniaK and Twig have also stripped his blue buff, have their whole right-hand side jungle to still take it,
DW.
and Deathwalker's still level 1, and he's going to stay that way as he falls again. 3 kills in a minute and a half.
Oh, man. 2 deaths for Deathwalker specifically. 1 defending the speed buff, and then 1 just kind of getting ganked. Luckily for Deathwalker, he's down, but he's certainly not out.
It's funny because I feel like they could have recovered a little bit better from Wlfy's death in the mid lane, but having having Deathwalker die twice in the laning phase early on has caused him a couple of problems. And iceicebaby only just now hitting level 2.
Here's why I say Deathwalker's down but not out. iceicebaby can stay here in this solo lane and sort of make it a dual lane for a little while.
Sure.
He's a Nemesis, so you're not looking for the earliest of early ganks. It's not like relegating a Thanatos to help out the solo lane where you're sitting there going, man, wish we had some early game presence.
Well, if that's the case, I think Obey should be paying their attention to the left-hand side of the map then, knowing that iceicebaby is going to have to hang around there for a while to deal with maniaK. We could see some early gold furies or some early pressure to the dual lane here.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely what Obey want to do with this, with the fact that, you know, maniaK's
Oh, maybe
able
not.
to run
Twig
this.
back again to the solo lane, and iceicebaby forced to beads and run away. Meanwhile, Deathwalker, he can't run very far without his ultimate to get him away. He gets a bit of a speed boost there, though, getting back to the tower in safety once again. He's low.
Really important play that you noted there. Just a speed boost that comes on that Osiris kit. Very important stuff. Deathwalker's dead without that small play.
Yeah, and it works out well now for Team Rival just to try and hold on for a minute or two. And I say a minute or two because literally it's only been a minute or two.
Yeah, Obey off to a great start here. That's one of the things that Naja does for you. You're able to really just take advantage, especially, I mean, like we said, the later game characters. And,
oh, we're going to dive for Deathwalker, and the dive is completed already. 4 kills the way of Obey. maniaK picks up the kill with the bludgeon, and Callus still only level 4. Even if he made it there, he wouldn't have been able to revive his teammate anyway.
CaptainTwig, again, with the smaller plays that might not make it onto the scoreboard. That kill happens because CaptainTwig tanked the tower for his teammate, understanding I'm Naja, I've used my kit, your turn, hit him with the bludgeon, I'll take the tower shots, we share it even, down goes Deathwalker. And
it works out so well just to keep pushing Deathwalker further behind. Now maniaK's level 5. He's had his Eagles Rally available where Deathwalker, once again, he's going to have to camp that tower like that tower, his life depends on it. And it really does.
Yeah, that first sort of sequence where he had 2 deaths, Graham, I said, listen, all right, maybe he's down but not out. This is immediately a more difficult situation.
And what maniaK's doing here is so wise, freezing the lane, forcing Deathwalker to have to walk all the way up away from the safety of his tower until he wants to do something, like the speed buff, and then he'll clear it and make sure he's available to help his team.
Yeah, Obey just making... This is exactly what you want to do. Anytime you force the opponent into a bad situation, you need to take advantage.
Forcing Gold Fury just started up by Rival here. Oracle's not available, but Ataraxia on the scene, and already Obey looking to collapse. CaptainTwig swinging around looking for a sash or a ring toss if he can. Red buff is just spawned at the worst possible time for Rival, who tried to take it on. Already the field's a look down from Vote. It's straight away. Twig takes him to the sky.
Really rough position for Team Rival to be in here. Vote NBK 1 shot away. Gonna find
revive.
it, but the revive comes through. Fantastic play. PrettyPriMe on the other end to ensure the kill.
Still not good enough though, because Callus may have kept his teammate alive for a second, but it literally was just a second. And Ataraxia will claim Callus's life to go alongside that. Obey just exploiting Rival, trying to get the way back in the game. And I respect the Gold Fury call for the attempt, but the red buff baited them too much.
Yeah, the Gold Fury was the right call, but as soon as Obey showed up, they had to get out of there. Want to know what my favorite ability of that team fight was?
The revive?
No. EmilZy popping the Terra ultimate. Nobody was near the Gold Fury. The EmilZy pops the Terra ultimate so for the movement speed to be able to contest a Gold Fury. As the Gold Fury gets leashed, that movement speed allows Obey to come in and invade onto the red buff.
Well,
without that speed, they're behind.
And that worked out well for Obey then. 6-0. Gold Fury still stands at the moment. It's about a 3,000 gold lead at 5 minutes in. Normally we don't talk about gold, and if we do 1,000 gold lead, something at this point, but three's getting there already.
I mean, this is a really uphill battle for Team Rival at this point, man. Obviously, Obey have gotten off to a fantastic start, and more importantly, they're making use of it. I started to say before we looked at the Gold Fury, anytime you're able to get a small advantage, you got to find that ripple effect. And we saw it, you put the solo lane down, it's not enough just to keep Deathwalker down a couple of levels, because he'll eventually reach there. You have to strip the jungle and then punish. You strip the jungle, So Team Rival responds on the other side.
Yep.
You punish that response. Obey are playing this perfectly.
Well, 2 speed buffs and 2 blue buffs stolen by Obey on the right-hand side. And obviously the fights on the left have worked out very well for Obey so far. They just need to keep this pressure up. And as it stands, I'm interested that Twig has gone back to Talaria boots in the jungle. We've not seen that since Worlds.
Yeah, CaptainTwig did this. We saw a couple of junglers try this route earlier last week, and really what it is, it's less about the experience. They're not really looking for a gimmick of over farming. It's really about just the raw movement speed in my eyes. Having a jungler be able to traverse the map even faster than normal, that's so valuable because your jungler being all over the place is what allows your jungler to do his job.
Dashing mid lane from EmilZy, but caught by Callus there. Nice little catch. Just a little bit too low level for Rival to really punish EmilZy for being that far forward as a 2-man. But going back to what you were saying about the Najjar, the fact is, with the Talaria boots, thinking about it, the mobility is great. And when you ring toss, you get the same mobility, if not a little bit more anyway. So it's win-win. In combat, ring toss. Out of combat, movement too.
Yeah, especially what a lot of Najjars do to get through the jungle is you'll just toss the ring
and move on
at a camp and move on for the movement speed.
Well, maniaK's moving on deeper into Rival's jungle, looking towards Callus, and they're going to put some pressure on and force Rival back yet again. Speed buff still available for Obey, and 4 members strong. It looks like only really Deathwalker wants to try and get involved in this and look for a cheeky steal, but he's a little bit too late.
Nothing the Team Rival can do here. Down 5,000 gold. They cannot defend the speed buff. They have to look for a win elsewhere, but unfortunately for them, that means 3-manning the red buff. Still not a good look. I love the discipline to run away from it, though.
Well, I don't love the discipline of staying around looking for the red buff here. iceicebaby in trouble. Double dash will get him to safety. But look at the other side. Callus and Wlfy were trying to support, and instead, it's them two now caught out of position on their own. Callus will ult himself, but it's only going to buy him another second until Ataraxia once again cleans up the kill.
Vote's in trouble. Gets hit by the sash. Should be out, but there's Deathwalker showing up. 1 into 4. Ults right in. He's a madman. Hit by the ultimate. PrettyPriMe puts him down. And that's love potion number 9 for Obey.
It's 3 for 1. Ataraxia biting off a little bit more. That was Zatman-esque for me. But he's got a bit of support in EmilZy. As Zatman would too, I guess, in the support role. 11 and oh, this is done.
That was a very unfortunate play coming out from iceicebaby.
This going back all the way to the start of the game. We saw Wlfy die for first blood. He got ring toss and between 2 characters that set up 4 members to pick him up. I don't think the game was done there after. I think it was that speed buff. But that decision by Deathwalker and iceicebaby to contest that speed buff still punished him so much.
This red buff is the example of not tilt, but how a game can mentally affect you. And I'm not talking about tilt. Obey have stifled Team Rival. They haven't been able to get experience anywhere. That red buff falls down, and Rival do a good job. But iceicebaby realizes he's down 4 levels, 3 at the time.
Yep.
He needs some experience, so he lingers there for a moment. And Team Rival being team-oriented, they try to save iceicebaby. Down goes the support. You guys saw the team fight. That's all because iceicebaby hangs out, not because he's tilted, not because he's angry.
Sure.
He needs the experience. And that's how the Obey have mentally affected Rival into saying that, listen, you're starving, and you're going to reach for every crumb we drop.
And that's the scary thing is that, yeah, you put the solo liner behind, but the solo liner being behind actually turns into the jungler being behind as time goes on, because it's the jungle that gets stripped. The solo liner still gets some minions in lane.
Yeah, exactly. And not only does the jungler get his jungle stripped, he has to spend time with Deathwalker in lane, so that's going to run him out low. So really rough stuff here for Team Rival. Obey Alliance have done a fantastic job playing textbook Smite.
Well, here comes Deathwalker around the back, looking for a fight with EmilZy and PrettyPriMe. Abduct from Callus hits EmilZy, and EmilZy goes down. Rival are on the board. Twig gonna have to Aegis and disengage, but now Rival have to fall back quick because they know maniaK's on his way.
Really big play, gold experience-wise. That might not bring him back, but here's Najjar bringing Deathwalker back to the ground. Help down low from Obey. Down goes the hammer, and maniaK with the tallywhack.
Oh, and Callus ults himself. Luckily, he'll get away, but now Vote's rotating. Meanwhile, you can also see Ataraxia making a move towards the Portal Demon. Obey could get the Portal Demon off this one small little engagement that Deathwalker made happen. I like the call, though. They did get a kill.
Yeah, I mean, Team Rival getting on the board, that's all they're going to get, actually.
I'm not overly surprised, are you? I mean, realistically, with how that game went, you can see the gold lead right at the end, 7,500, 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
We don't normally expect surrenders in the Pro League, but sometimes it's better to do that.
Listen, I that game was over, flat out. Black and white. Unfortunately, listen, 1 play, 2 plays early game don't spell the game, but when you're sitting there the entire 10 minutes and everything has gone in a different team's favor, there's nothing else you can do in that situation.
Well, let's hope this is fixed for game 2 then, because Rival, obviously they're supposed to be going up against Obey multiple times, but it's been a bit awkward here. Obey, if they run this one through too, Rival are not looking as strong as people were saying.
Sure, I think that that is a fluke play. Absolutely, that's a fluke.
Okay.
I mean, that was just, I mean, the play on Obey's side was not a fluke. They played flawlessly. But I just don't think Rival will play at that level. They're a much stronger team than that. Listen, sometimes you drop the ball.
Yeah, and sometimes it causes a lot more problems. Very good set.